Welcome back to the Tkacs channel. This is a topic that's definitely worth spending some time to really dial in. Let's talk about protecting everything from the neck up. I'm going to keep it really simple. When we're talking about ears, that's really simple. I am a big advocate wear hearing protection. It's not just to save your hearing, it's also so you can hear traffic better because it helps block out the ambient noise. You can hear your audio better, you can hear traffic better. So just very simply wear ear protection. As far as eye protection goes, really we have several different levels of protection. Obviously the shield on the helmet, which is built in, this is a great level of protection. The only problem is as adventure riders and even as street riders, we often want to get a lot of ventilation. So we open up those shields. That's when we start getting into other levels of protection. Since I'm primarily an adventure riding channel, let's go ahead and start off there. We're going to be talking about goggles. Now, as far as goggles go, to be honest, guys, I really don't use goggles anymore. I did back when I was riding dirt bikes, if I was out in the desert or riding with a bunch of guys kicking up a lot of dust. Certainly this is a viable level of protection and not a terrible idea, but you do need to make sure that you have goggles that are a minimum of ANSI 87 rated, so impact protected. If they are, it'll be marked either on the packaging or should be on the lens itself. Unfortunately, a lot of eye goggles for off-road riding are not actually at the impact level protection. So make sure you check that out. Now the pros of these obviously are they seal very, very well all the way around, but they also catch a lot of fog. They're uncomfortable. They hold a lot of heat into the house or into your face. And they're only compatible to an off-road helmet or an adventure style helmet. So if you're wearing a modular or a flip face helmet or a standard road helmet, these are not going to be an option for you. Not a bad choice, just something I don't use anymore. Getting into the age bracket that a lot of us are that are riding these bikes, a lot of us are usually, well, a lot of us are wearing corrective lenses now. These are generally not an impact protected lens unless that's something that you've gotten specifically. It's going to be fine if you're talking small bugs and riding around in a field. If you're doing training with me and we're out in a grass field or we're just doing some minor stuff or low speed stuff, this is going to be just fine. But this is definitely not going to protect you from high speed impacts of large bugs, rocks, anything like that. So if you have protective lenses, you need additional eye protection. Moving up the line to the I'm saving the best for last because those are the ones I use all the time. These are just protective lenses. So these are safety rated. These are ANSI 87 rated. These are Milwaukee lenses picked up at a big box store. And they do have pretty decent protection because they are protective lenses. They come down pretty low on the face. They come up fairly high. The lens clarity is usually pretty good, and of course they're impact protected. However, they do not come as far down on the face as I would want for really optimal protection for riding on a motorcycle of any kind, whether it's on the street or off-road. And also the sides of these, the parts that go over the ears, are usually a little thicker, a little rounder, and when they slide into the helmet, they can often be uncomfortable. Now, when I get to the helmets themselves, some of these helmets are better for wearing eye protection or glasses, and I'll get to that when I talk about these three helmets. So not a terrible choice. It's inexpensive, but it's also not quite ideal. My personal favorite are the ArcLight protective lenses. And the reason, there's actually several reasons I wear these as my primary eye protection when I'm riding off-road and my shield is up. And that is that the sides of these, if you look really close, the sides of these are very, very thin and they slip into the helmet very easily. And because they slip in, they become quite comfortable. The nose piece, I can get an adapter. If you need corrective lenses, you can wear those corrective lenses and still be able to use all of the transitional lenses, the clear lenses, everything else. On top of that, they are a military spec impact lens, which is a higher rated. And one of the very important aspects when I'm looking for lenses is they are not polarized, which means I can see it doesn't hide things that are very important to me. So these are my number one eyewear. They are my personal favorite. No, I don't have any sponsorship from arc lights or anything else. If you're interested in these, I will put a link in the comments, or not in the comments, but in the description down below of the show. Now, probably what you're really here for is the helmets. I do not have an open face helmet and I do not have a half helmet because, as I discussed in another video, helmets themselves may not save us from death, but they definitely save us from severe injury, deformity, and medical expense. And so I'm only going to focus on those that have a chin bar or chin protection. If you're taking a motorcycle class with me, that is one of my requirements, is that it has to be at least DOT and you have to have a chin bar in the helmet. I just don't like putting people's faces back together after they have a problem. Down the line, these are all my helmets. These are all Shoei's. You'll notice they're all white. Again, not sponsored by Shoei or anybody else. This channel is 100% supported by the thank you donations on YouTube and mostly by Patreon supporters who allow me just to come up with topics like this where I don't have to worry about large volume or following the algorithms. This just happens to fit my head, and as a price point, I think they have a high value for the money I spend on them. They're a higher end helmet, not the most expensive, but definitely on the upper end. This is my RF 1400. It's a street helmet. This is my Hornet X2. It's designed to be a adventure helmet, and then I have my level 3. This is my Neotech 3. And I also have a Neotech 2 I train in, my older helmets. And this is my teaching helmet and when I travel internationally. Now, I wear all of these when I do adventure riding, but for different situations. What I want you to do when you're watching this video is I'm not trying to sell you one of these 3 helmets. What I'm trying to do is give you the information needed so as you are shopping and comparing features and cost and purpose of that helmet, that you're able to assess what those different features or considerations are and how important those really should be for you, regardless of what brand of helmet it actually is. Now, the reason I have white, because that might be something you notice here, all of my helmets are white. They are the best for reflecting heat, and it's a significant amount. And also they are the most visible when you're in traffic, and they look really good on camera, and also for teaching. When I'm teaching and riders are watching, it's very easy for them to see what I'm doing with my head and visibility. So that's why I have white helmets. Starting with the least expensive helmet and working my way down, the RF 1400 is a dedicated street helmet. There's nothing wrong with wearing one of these. This is very similar to this. I had the RF 1200. This is what I wore when I took my trip from Canada down to Argentina. That trip, I was looking at a lot of road riding, a lot of higher speed riding, a lot of wind, and that's why this helmet became my choice. Cost-wise, it's almost the same as the X2. This particular helmet, the Shoei RF 1400, retails for around $650 to $800, depending on the graphics and such that you want in the helmet. Now, the reason that this became my choice helmet, and these are things to have consideration, it does have the highest safety rating for the US, which is the Snell M2020, and the DOT, which is the minimal standard, but it's the lightest of these helmets. This one is 3 pounds and 3.64 pounds, and comes in the largest range of sizes. So if you have a very large head, this is extra small to XXX. Often if you get back to the street helmet, there's more market, and so therefore there can be more sizing. But the safety isn't just the rating, the M2020 and the DOT. Also, it is the quietest of the 3 helmets, which means less fatigue, means I can hear things that are going on around me. It's the lightest helmet, which means it's also less fatigue. And if I have a get off on the bike, there's less mass on my head, less chance of a neck injury. So those are actually, when I look at weight, that's a safety feature in my opinion. When I look at how loud the helmet is inside, that's a safety feature. Now, this particular helmet does not have a drop-down visor. That's not a big deal to me. It is to a lot of riders. That can change your safety rating, and it can also change the weight of the helmet. So keep that in mind when you're looking at those features. Are you giving something up that is more important to you? It does have a quick disconnect shield, and that is something that's important to me as I'm looking around. So great helmet. If I am primarily a commuter, I'm running on higher speeds, I'm running with more wind, this is definitely going to be the helmet that would take the lead just because of the aerodynamics and the weight. The adventure helmets, obviously very popular. We all ride adventure bikes. We got to look the part. It's like, cool, I'm an adventure rider. This may be one of the more street-orientated adventure helmets in the fact that it's got a fairly short chin bar on it. It has the quick disconnect shield. The one thing I do like about this particular helmet, the X2, and this matters a lot, is the deciding factor for a dual sport adventure helmet is they end up with built-in eye protection. They have the visor on it, and they generally have a peak. And the reason that we have these is this larger piece at the bottom that sticks out allows us more room to breathe. It allows more ventilation. The larger eye hole inside allows us to wear goggles. And also, if you're somebody who feels kind of claustrophobic in a full face helmet, because of the larger eye hole, it may make you feel a little less claustrophobic. And of course, the visor itself on top needs to be functional. And when you put the helmet on, if it doesn't cause shading like a baseball cap or a flat cap where you can shade the sun, then it's just going to create more noise, more weight, more wind resistance. This needs to be functional, or don't buy the helmet. This visor is very, very useful both as a street rider. If you get a low sun glare, you can tilt it down and shade. But more importantly, for adventure riders, the biggest benefit of having this visor here is when you get a lot of dust on the shield and you can't see, if you can shade it, then you can see through it. It's the reflection of the sun or the light on that shield that causes you to be blinded. So that's what that shield is for. To get back to one of the things I like about the Shoeis is this helmet is designed in a wind tunnel. That means that all the venting built into this particular visor is aerodynamic to reduce the amount of lift and neck fatigue. And that's an important point. The less expensive helmets often don't have the same overall technology research and the cost that goes in the helmet. So this one is almost the same price as the RF 1400. This one is around $680, about $30 more at the bottom level, and it goes up to about $800. Again, it depends on the features. I'm into pure white, so my helmets are always the cheapest of the bunch. It does have great ventilation, better than a regular street helmet because of the space. It does have the quick disconnect visor. The number one benefit or the two top benefits, I should say, of the adventure helmets, again, is the visor to shade and, of course, the little extra breathing space. Number 3, let's look at the Modulars. Being the most expensive helmet at starting, is around $900, I think, on this one. Yeah, so we're talking $900 on this helmet. It does have all the quick disconnect, quick change shield. This does have a drop-down visor. And of course, the number one feature is that the face shield opens up. And you better really, really like that feature because you're giving up a lot to get that. So, and it, again, not just the Shoei. This is one of the lighter and the quieter helmets of the Modulars. But even though it is still considerably louder than these other helmets. Also, where this one is 364, 0.64 pounds. This one is 3.99 pounds. This one is 4 pounds, 4.15 pounds. So you're getting heavier as we go down the line and adding these things. So now we have more noise, we have more weight, we have more expense, and because this is a latched helmet, and Shoei does use metal latches on it, which is better than a lot of the other less expensive versions, it is still not a solid shield. And the chance of that separating or opening during an impact is a possibility. Okay, so why do I own one of these? Well, I own one because I teach. If you come out to my class, I will probably be wearing this particular helmet. And this is also a big deal, like if you're an ex-wrestler and you have cauliflower ears or your ears are very sensitive. When I put this on and off, I can flex the helmet. I can pull and it's going to open and I can just slip it on and off. And of course, more importantly, as I'm riding around the field doing saddle coaching, or if I'm talking, I can very quickly open the visor or open the whole shield so that I can communicate clearly. I also travel internationally with these, which I find very nice as I get into small villages or small towns where I can open it up and I have a human face. I can communicate with people, and I really do like that feature. But it is really loud compared to these other helmets, and it's definitely heavy. And that's the big drawback to this particular one. Now, if you do wear glasses, this is going to be your most comfortable. It's the easiest one where you can lift up, you can slide it in. Generally, it has the least amount of pressure on the side of the head. And that's certainly a benefit if you're into that sort of thing. If you're a lot of stop and go traffic, if you're a commuter and you're willing to give up the safety rating, this is not an M2020 Snell rated helmet. It is only DOT, as is every other modular helmet. None of the helmets meet that safety rating. That is something you're giving up in exchange for that. But it does give you those comfort features that are in play. To give you an idea of where I've traveled with these, I already mentioned South America. The Hornet is the helmet I chose when I rode through West Africa. So I started up in Spain and I rode the west coast of Africa down to South Africa and then did a bunch of Southern African countries. And I wore this particular helmet for the features I mentioned. I had a lot of dust, I had a lot more dirt, I had a lot more things that were going to cause my shield to be filthy. And I was also running lower speeds. And so this was a better choice than wearing my dedicated street helmet. When I take people on tour, last year was China and Nepal. Next year will be Nepal and Morocco. And if you're interested, you can go to my website, Tkacs.com, and you'll find that on the same page as the training program. You'll also find those international tours. But I wear the modular helmet for the reasons I've already mentioned. I can open them up, I can communicate with the people who I'm traveling with, and I can communicate with the locals. And so also very low speeds. So I'm not really worried about high speed wind and noise, and this becomes that choice. So each one has its pros and cons. None of these are required to be an adventure rider. You don't have to have a visored helmet or to have one of these sun visors on it to claim that you're an adventure rider. Again, I wear all three depending where I'm at. I'm hoping this was very helpful to you. Please, if you have any questions, if I didn't cover the kind of the basic overall features that we're looking for in the helmets, leave it in the comments. I will try to get to those. Again, I am not sponsored by Shoei. These are just what I think is a great value for the money, and it fits my head very well. So I wear white Shoei helmets. It's just my thing. I'll have these listed in the show comments along with the eye protection that I spoke with. If you're training with me this year, I do have a list of all that recommended equipment and gear that goes out with your confirmation. If you're just watching the show to gain information, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the little bell mark so you get notified with new lessons that are coming out. And I will see you on the next show. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching. Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.